خانم مهری جعفری هستند که وکیل هستند در بریتانیا و تجربه دارن راجع به این موضوع به خصوص از زاویه حقوقی و خب ایشون کنشگر هم هستن علاوه بر دانش آکادمیکشون. ازشون تقاضا میکنم که در مورد یک موضوع، در واقع یک موضوع میانبرشی، اینترسکشنال بین موضوع مسئله زنان و دیسابیلیتی صحبت بکنن. در واقع موضوعشون هستش دسترسی به عدالت برای زنان دارای معلولیت در جمهوری اسلامی ایران. تقاضا میکنم بفرمایید.
Many thanks for inviting me. It's my honor to take part in this event. Actually, I am not quite sure it's really specific about women. The reason is, in general, we have various difficulties in terms of basic issues regarding the access to the public facilities and basic rights of people with disabilities. Therefore, I would focus on the basic and fundamental issues. Then I would refer to the women's situation, which, as Dr. referred to, is mostly, you can say, because of their marginalized situation, take them to the corner and discriminate them on that basis. In terms of Article 13, I would like to explain a little bit more about Article 13. The reason is sometimes we are talking about articles which sometimes they are more general and are referring to the obligations of the states, and for example, using terms like empowerment, and any state would say, oh, we have these schemes or plans, we did that, so we empowered this group of people. But if we go to this Article 13, we can see that is mostly objective, and specifically under two sub-articles referring to obligations of the states to deal with providing effective access. So effective access to justice means that not like referring to effective access, everyone could say, oh, we again generally can claim some kind of successful activities on that field, but we can see is not happening here. It's just objectively referring to witnesses, referring to all legal proceedings, including investigations, preliminary stages. So it is much more objective. And under the second subtitle, we can also see is referring to the training of the member of staff. Again, if Iranian government would argue, sometimes they argue they've done some progress, they obtained some progress. In this regard, they can't, because specifically we have no signs of such training schemes for the staff member of judicial system. Having this objective requirements, we can say, we can review our current system in Iran. Under the current system, we can argue definitely there is no such procedural rules or provisions to protect the people with disabilities under Article 13, whilst the government ratified this convention and were obliged to comply with. In terms of general access to justice, if you are a normal person without disabilities, you have to go through specific procedures. For example, you have to file your claim online in Iran currently, and then complete some forms. If we go to governmental website, we can see there is no such facilities for example, blind people. Or if you are an accused person or your right violated, you have to go to police station or the judicial departments and follow the rules. Again, we would review the accessibility of the building as in under Article 13, also referring to proper accommodations. Again, the approaches of the general approaches of, I can say in general in society, specifically uneducated staff member of the judicial system, they would face with some kind of discriminatory behavior. Even someone would try to help them is a charity-based approach, because you need to rely on other people's physical help instead of using actual facilities, which is your own rights under the law. Therefore, under the basic requirements, we can see obvious breach of Article 13. In terms of improvement of the current situation, we do not see specific rules, as I mentioned, in terms of judicial system, but we do see some kind of provisions to support and protect rights of people with disabilities. I would try to say, yes, there is a law for rights to protect the people with disabilities' rights. But as my colleagues, I think they would refer, it's not my specific area to say how it works, but if you go through the law itself, is simply refers to the government's budget, and is up to government to reasonably to decide to dedicate some specific budgets to protect the people with disabilities' rights, who are almost 10% of the population of Iran. In terms of budget and governing issue, we can see a structural issue in Iran, and this structural issue can be in terms of judicial procedures, again, is applicable, because the only governmental body is responsible to support and protect people with disabilities is the state welfare organization. Is quite unique that if you go to any other states, you would see government as a whole is responsible for all the plans or procedures or dedicating the budgets. But in Iran, I think Mr. Salimi, Muhammad Salimi, is the head of the state welfare organization. He himself, referring to the issue that is unusual, the government asking us to do everything, because even if the budget was enough, how you can be capable of implementing whole rules and procedures related to the people with disabilities, along with other issues like women in streets, children, trans people, all those sensitive issues or vulnerable people's issues, referring to one sole organization named State Welfare Organization. So a structural issue is here. If you have a claim or you are accused person, you need kind of facilities because you are handicapped. You need to either get facilities directly from government, from the judicial system, for example, online facilities, or some kind of a building accommodation, or at least there must be some kind of organizations to provide you services. So in Iran, we do not have even any organization to help you with completing the forms. If someone needs help, either needs to get help from the family or go through the organization, which is the only organization in Iran responsible for whole process and issues. There are charities, there are NGOs, also charities, but the general approaches of the government towards disability is charity-based, as we mentioned. So they are mostly supporting the charities rather than the NGOs. And the charities are also their ability is very limited because they rely, their approaches towards disabilities needs, the people with disabilities needs is direct donation. So the direct donation would not help people in terms of their access to judicial system and justice. I think I'm just going to conclude and refer to women's situation. Problem here is if you're women, you're already discriminated, and because you lack the education, they have not provided you the same education like men, even if you are disabled person or belong to the community. I can have an example. One of my friends, she is blind, and her brother was blind as well, both in a remote village, and so father, two other brothers, they were blind, and father decided to send two blind children for education to another city, and also provided them with some kind of facilities at home to learn and got education. But my friend, as a blind girl, she only got her from friends and begged them, what he was saying, to help her to record the lessons, and she could use the recorded books, and that recorded books, this system continued for her because she was very keen to continue. She got help again from friends to continue education, and she got university. But what she did was, she is a brave person. What she did is like extraordinary. So no other girls have that ability to go through all those difficulties and go to the university and get a job. Even in the university, what she was saying, again, begging the classmates to record the lessons, there was no such facilities. There were no such facilities for her. So we come back to our discussion about judicial system. Well, women with those kind of discriminations already violated, if they are disabled, the people's view towards them is not equal with other women. And when they go to the police station, the way they would treat her is not similar to other women, similar level. So imagine if you can't get into the building, and some people you need to rely on some other people's help. There are difficulties to help women in Iran in terms of physical touch or physical, and is not, I can say, is not a great way even to decide to go through all those difficulties to submit a claim. So it's very simple. It's very simple. You simply stay or maybe ignore your rights instead of going through all those difficult situations. Thank you very much.